Hi everyone, this is Alan Stout, Executive Director of Visit Luzerne County, and welcome to Next Stop, the Visit Luzerne County podcast. Here, each month, we'll be chatting with people from throughout northeastern Pennsylvania that help make our region a fun place to visit. We record the podcast right here at our office, inside the historic train station in Wilkes-Barre, which served as the next stop for countless trains for more than 100 years. Our next stop with our podcast will always be with someone we think you'll find interesting. Enjoy. Welcome, everyone. My name is Alan Stout, Executive Director at Visit Luzerne County, and this is episode number 8 of Next Stop, the Visit Luzerne County podcast. Joining us today on our podcast is Rhiannon Summers. She is an environmental and educational specialist with the Bureau of State Parks at Ricketts Glen State Park, and she also works with the Department of Conservation and National Resources, better known to most of us as the DCNR. Rhiannon, thanks so much for being with us today on the podcast. We appreciate you coming in and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know if you noticed when you walked through our lobby, but we've got a 7-foot Ricketts Glen State Park basically wall mural. It's the first thing that people see when they come into our office, and that was very much by design. And we're going to talk a little bit about the reason for that coming up. But before we get talking about fall foliage and Ricketts Glen and trails and the outdoors, let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you from originally? Where did you grow up?
So I'm actually an Army brat, so I didn't grow up anywhere in one place.
All over.
But I was born in Georgia, and I graduated high school out in Missouri.
Okay.
But my family's from northern Lycoming County.
Okay.
And I live just east of Williamsport right now. Okay.
And when you were pursuing your education, obviously you studied a particular field that you now work in. What was it about the outdoors and the environment that drew you to it as a career?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time as a young child with my family camping and hiking and going into caves. So then that helped lead me to my degree in Earth and Space Science Education, which I got in Mansfield University.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Was there something about those trips? Because a lot of people fish, hike, camp, hunt, spend time outside, but not everybody goes that big extra yard to make it their life's work.
Right.
What was it about those experiences when you were a kid that they must have been somewhat magical, I'm assuming, to you?
Right. So because of being a military child, so we traveled a lot. So we knew that we wouldn't be in those areas for long, so we would try to get out and see as much as we could. So like out in Colorado and everything like that. And so that was really what the travel bug, I'll say, that bit me, that then I was like, oh, why don't I just make a career out of this?
Mm-hmm. And you have.
Yep.
How long have you been here working with the Ricketts and the Bureau of State Parks and DCNR here in northeastern Pennsylvania, specifically in Luzerne County?
Yeah, so I've been at Ricketts Glen State Park for about 10 seasons. Oh. I started in 2016 in May, so yeah, I've just hit my 10th season, so it was very exciting. Congratulations. Thank you.
Let's talk about this park. For those unfamiliar, here at the Visitors Bureau, we are so proud of our outdoors and our trails and our state parks. It's a major part of tourism here in northeastern Pennsylvania and in Luzerne County. Ricketts Glen is really one of our crown jewels. That's why you see it when you walk through the lobby. It's over 13,000 acres. It actually touches 3 counties outside of Luzerne, as you well know. It's in Sullivan and a little bit of Columbia. It has 22 named waterfalls, including is it pronounced Ganoga?
Yep.
Yeah. That is 94 feet tall. I've seen it, but I never actually, and I've read it, but I never actually had to pronounce it before. So it's just an extraordinary place. It also harbors what's called the Glens Natural Area, which is considered a national natural landmark. I don't know that much about that terminology. Can you tell us a little bit about what that actually means, the Glens Natural Area, and why it's sort of nationally recognized?
Yes, yeah. So the Glen's natural area can be found in the lower part of the park, pretty much where the Falls Trail is located, and it encompasses 2,845 acres. Back in 1969, the United States Department of the Interior, with the National Park Service, established the Glen's natural area as a registered natural national landmark on October 12, 1969. And then on June 19, 1994, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources, which was what we used to be before we split from DEP, granted the newly created status of natural area to this area. So as defined within the state park's natural area policy, a natural area is an area within a state park of unique scenic, geologic, or ecological value that will be maintained in a natural condition by allowing physical and biological processes to operate, usually without direct human intervention. So these areas are set aside to provide locations for scientific observation of natural systems, protect examples of typical and unique plant and animal communities, and protect outstanding examples of natural interest and beauty, which that one's most, you know why that one.
Sure.
So this designation is why it's so important for people to stay on the trail only and to not swim or climb up the falls.
Okay, because of that designation. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how Ricketts Glen almost became even more nationally prominent at one time, because I think that's an interesting little antidote to the park as well. But, you know, back in 2019, it's 2018 or 19, an outside agency, this was not done by the Visitors Bureau, this was done by an outside agency that came in. They did a poll of people in this area and surrounding, and they asked people what they thought the top attractions were in Luzerne County. And some of the answers on there you would suspect, you know, the arena, which has professional sports and world-class entertainment, the FM Kirby Center, world-class entertainment on a weekly basis, the casino, which has, you know, so many things under its roof, nightclubs, the horse racing, the live music, comedy clubs. And so, not surprised, you know, when you saw what the list was, but the number one attraction in Luzerne County, according to people that took this poll, is Ricketts Glen State Park. And I remember about 2 years ago, we had a very warm November. It was maybe about 2 weeks after Halloween, and it got up to 70. And I almost entertained the idea, because it was so warm, of starting to put out the Christmas stuff, because you could decorate the front porch and not be freezing. Right. But I just wasn't in the mood yet. It was too early for me. I'm an after Thanksgiving guy with Christmas. And so I said, I'm just going out to Ricketts. And I drove out there, and Rhiannon, I got to tell you, 80% of the license plates were from out of the state. I mean, I for somebody that works at the Visitors Bureau, it was, you know, it brought joy to my heart. And so we know that it's popular. We know it you know, took number one in this poll. I see it myself when I'm there. What is it about that place that you think makes it so special? And what does that appeal to people?
So
you spend more time out there than anybody I've ever met.
Yeah. So I would say it's the amount of waterfalls in such a short distance. Because think about, like, anytime you go to a place, you always want to go check out the one waterfall or the two waterfalls they have. So it doesn't surprise me that because we have 22 named waterfalls, people want to come, because we do have a lot of waterfalls in a really short distance. And people are just naturally attracted to moving water. You know, people go to the ocean, you know what I mean? People go to the lake. So I think that that's what the big draw is that I don't really know of any other place that has that amount of waterfalls in such a short distance.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I mean, there is something, you know, whether it be sitting along the Susquehanna River,
right,
or a stream, there's something about a waterfall particularly, which is, you know, the most beautiful of any of those things. There's something that's in our DNA, and it could literally be in our DNA. You know, from evolution, I don't know, maybe we came from the water, that you're drawn to it, and that you're right. You can be on one of those trails for not that long and see a waterfall. As a matter of fact, if you're coming down 115 towards Ricketts Glen from Dallas.
Yeah, 118.
118, I'm
Yep.
sorry. And you park in the parking lot on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Not the big one that you come first, but the one...
Yeah, the evergreen
Yeah.
lot.
There's a waterfall 25 yards away from the parking lot.
Yep.
I mean, that's a great place to take pictures, and you don't have to hike at all.
Right,
to
just
see
go
it.
down a couple flights of steps.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. I've taken some pictures there with my family, and I have my dog out there. It's just so. That is probably, you're right. That is probably one of the reasons that it is so incredibly popular is the waterfalls, and you could probably. How long does it take you from 118, where it starts the trail, to typically see them all?
So if you start at the bottom at Route 118, you want to do the whole Falls Trail. That's going to be about 7 miles. So plan on 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on how often you stop, how many people are there,
Right.
how much water you're going to need. But we also recommend you don't have to do the whole 7 miles. You can start from the top and do the loop in 3 miles too, and cut down on quite a bit of hiking time.
And see some of the bigger ones. Right.
Yeah, or if you don't want to do the whole loop at all, you could just do like the first 4 waterfalls, which the 4th one is Gonoga Falls, the big 94-foot one.
I've actually talked to people who, if they go out as a tandem with 2 people, will park on the top or the bottom.
Yep.
And then walk the trail, and then they don't have to do it all again.
Yeah. Yep. So they'll both meet at the bottom and then leave one car at the bottom and drive up to the top and then start and hike all the way down.
And you have a beautiful guest center there at the top too, where you have information and a little museum with wildlife. And
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place. Is that where your office is?
Yes.
I
Yep.
figured. We've been there many times. We drop off our visitors' guides there a couple times.
Right.
Kyle, who's here producing our podcast for us, he told me recently that at one point prior to World War II, just prior to World War II, Ricketts Glen was very close to becoming a national park.
Yeah, so that was even before the state owned that land. So that was back in 1935. We purchased the first part of the park in 1941. So what happened was they were going around trying to decide which areas should be national parks. And if you notice, so usually every state has like a national park, but Pennsylvania doesn't. But that was because Ricketts Glen was to be the national park. But what happened is World War II came around, so then all the funds got redistributed and redirected by the Resettlement Administration. So then when the federal government stopped looking at it, then the state government stepped up and took it
during the war
and purchased it.
Pretty
Yep.
much during the war they bought. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. That is an interesting footnote to the park, which I recently, Kyle just told me about that a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So wanted to mention that on the podcast. I'm sure a lot of people maybe didn't know that who are watching and listening.
And the people that are into the CCC, we actually had a CCC camp it was named to be proposed, and then that also went by the wayside when we weren't a national park either.
Let's talk about some of the great programming, and I'm sure that you're very familiar with it. You know, here on our website at Visit Luzerne County, we try to list all these things for people so that not only do you know that Ricketts Glen is there and that we have the waterfalls, but I mean, just taking a look at your website recently too, you know, everything from things that might be happening at Lake Jean on top of the mountain, which is a beautiful lake, to bird watching, monarch tagging, tree identification walks, geology walks, waterfall walks, programs with archery, astronomy, compasses, wildflowers. Sometimes you'll even take people out in the wintertime. Is that a part of your duties there at the park to facilitate those programs?
Yeah, so besides the winter stuff, which is a contracted agreement with somebody else, everything else is done by me. Yep, so I implement all the fun programming at the park.
Is there anything that is a favorite of yours, or that you think that seems to be the most popular with
so
people? Well,
they're all my
question.
favorite,
Yeah.
for one thing, because I implement them all. I would say, and it's hard to say popular-wise, like the sunset paddles can be popular, but of course that's weather dependent. My astronomy program's very popular. The eclipse program I had was probably the most popular program I've ever had. And then sometimes if we can get a bear trap, then the Game Commission will host a public program for me. So a lot of people can get up and close with a bear that's being processed. And but again, none of them is my favorite, but I do have favorite parts of them, which is pretty much just watching somebody learn or discover something for the first time. Because it's not very often people can like look in my telescope and see Jupiter or the rings of Saturn. And to just tell people like, yeah, that's what you're actually looking at, and for them to just be amazed that's my favorite part.
It is incredible, and so many great programs. You mentioned in the winter that there was an outside agency that did those tours. Yeah. And it is not advised for people to go on that trail in the winter without one of those tours. It's not permitted, correct?
Well, you don't have to go on the tour, but you have to have appropriate ice equipment. So crampons.
Oh, and you have to check in and show it.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. So crampons, ice axe, and a rope, which you need all three for sure, because I've gotten stuck out there in the winter time and I needed the axe to get out. And then, yes, you have to check in at the office and check out when you're done. And this also cannot be the first time you've ever ice hiked. So we want you to go somewhere else that's not as strenuous and get comfortable, because it's not, walking on crampons is not second nature. Like, you really have to learn how to do it before you want to be out on that trail, right, on a little skinny path of ice next to a waterfall.
They actually, I know we've seen some pictures of them here, and I don't understand, the science of it, because, we're always taught when we're kids that moving water can't freeze, but the waterfalls do freeze to an extent.
Yes. So
how does that happen?
It's not frozen solid. Yeah, so it's not frozen solid, but like the outer edges of it freeze first, and then it just kind of builds on itself. So it's been a long time since the waterfalls have actually frozen. Like, our winters haven't been as cold. Mild, yeah. Right, but they can freeze. It's just they're still moving underneath the ice.
And that's a beautiful thing to see.
Yes.
I mean, it really is gorgeous. So I could see why some folks want to go out there and take a look at that when it happens, despite the elements and so forth. One of the questions that every year, I've been here now for 4 years in my position, I'll be getting a phone call from the newspapers probably within a week or two usually, and they start doing their foliage stories, and they want to know when it's happening. Right. And we refer them to various websites, and we update that information on our website. Now, it's been cool the last 2 weeks of August. Very, we hit the 40s one night. So I'm assuming that this could possibly affect the foliage and have it come sooner than normal. Do we have any idea yet what we're looking at for people that really love to do drives and hiking?
Yeah, so like
splendor?
Yeah, like right now I'm seeing the maples are already turning, which is really early for this time of year. But other than that, I just refer to our sister agency, the Bureau of Forestry. They're the ones that put out those fall foliage maps, and that's where I always go off of, and I try to share that on our Facebook page whenever I see that they share that, so people will know ahead of time. But generally, it's the second week in October is when we hit peak for the leaves changing. But yeah, I'm not sure about this year, what it's going to be.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it takes that long. I had some leaves coming down even in my yard last weekend. So that is, though, really a spectacular time of year. Is it? I could imagine that May would be very busy, because we do have some rough winters here sometimes, and everybody's been cooped up for 4 or 5 months, and they really can't wait to get out. But I would also assume that the fall might be equally busy on the trails, if not more so. Is there a peak time of year for people?
July. July is always our busiest time of year.
See, I was wrong. I would have thought it would have been May or September.
Yeah, no, it's
July.
July.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's probably because, too, we have Lake Jean, so a lot of people are there for swimming, which would increase our numbers quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're talking specifically the Falls Trail, then yeah, probably May and September, October. But yeah, July is definitely our busiest time with trail and people on the beach.
Do you have any sort of, I know it's hard because people don't have, you park in your car and you walk on the trail, so getting statistics might be challenging, but any idea of an estimate from your office of how many people on an average year
So yeah, we're not quite to 500,000, but almost. Yeah, 500,000 visitors a year.
Incredible.
Yep.
Incredible. What kind of efforts do you make when you have that many people coming through to make sure that it stays undeveloped as it is and as pristine as it is? What kind of precautions do you have to take or measures do you need to take to make sure that Ricketts can survive a 500,000 people trampling through it every year?
Right. So one of the big complaints we get is that our parking lots fill up a lot on the weekends and stuff, and that's for a reason. So we only have designated amount of parking so that for the amount of people we want on a trail per day. So that's one way we can help with that.
That makes perfect sense. You could easily knock down some more trees and make that lot bigger if you wanted to, but you choose not to.
Right.
Interesting.
Yep.
So that's one way of keeping things in check.
Right. And then education, of course, too. Like, and we have signs, a lot of signs saying, what you can and can't do. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge because there's a lot of times where, I'll be hiking the trail and I'll have to remind people that they need to be on the trail. Please don't get off the trail because this is a national natural landmark. This has protected status. Please don't go swimming in the falls. It's not only for that, but also for your own safety because we also have to help people a lot that have accidents out on the trail.
Sure. It's a lot of responsibility for your office too with that many people coming through.
Right.
Here in Luzerne County, in addition to Ricketts Glen, we have a couple of other state parks. Francis Slocum in the Back Mountain, which is a beautiful place. Nescopec State Park. Other places that don't have state park designation but are considered natural areas that a lot of people love to go to would be the Warrior Run Trail, the Back Mountain Trail, the Rails to Trails in Hazleton, the DNL Trail, which obviously we're trying to link right here down to downtown Wilkes-Barre. It's a project that was going Seven Tubs, Moon Lake. Are you involved through your work with any of those other outdoor attractions and in any way?
So no, the only way I'm associated with the other state parks is because they have educators too. So we will help out each other if needed.
Programming.
Programming and whatnot. All the other ones I don't have anything to do with, especially because I'm from Williamsport area, so I'm not as familiar with those parks, local parks as well. But I definitely recommend checking out Francis Slocum and Nescopec because they have some great educators and some awesome programming for their park as well. Yeah,
we've actually listed some of their events on our social media as well, some of that special programming that they do. How important is it for you just in this day this time that we live in? It's very easy to come home after a long day's work or on a weekend and everybody has a television set. Most people have a television set with 100 channels. You've got the whole world in your pocket on your phone. Everybody has their own apps that they enjoy and their pages that they follow. And I still think that going out on a trail is almost a detox from all of the information that is constantly being fed into your mind. And I think that there's a healthy component to it. Kyle here just spent some time out this past weekend with a good friend of his out doing a camp. And, I just thought that was a great thing for him and his buddy to do. He's getting away from it all and having some time where there might not be service. And so you can't check your email at work or get a phone call or a text message. How important do you feel as somebody that does this professionally for people that are healthy enough to do it and able enough to do it, to get out and do it?
I definitely recommend it too, and people should start checking out forest therapy. That's becoming a big thing right now, and we actually offer forest therapy guided meditations at the park, and you'll find a lot of the science as to why people are drawn to being in nature, being drawn to moving water, why they need to detox, and that's why there's actually our bodies respond to the what's going on a microscopic level with nature. that we need and that we need to detox ourselves on. And you don't even have to go to like a park. You can do it like you were talking about. People may not be able to hike the Falls Trail. Of course, definitely not everyone can do that, but like just going outside in your yard and just make sure you have enough time to sit out on your porch, just to be outside next to a tree. Anything like that will be very helpful. Like you don't have to try to go somewhere far if you're not able to. But it definitely helps if you can go like to World's End or Ricketts Glen, like it's because you're definitely gonna be able to unplug when you're out there. Yep. So
I just think it's really important to do that. When you said there might be something biological to it, the way we're wired as human beings, everybody knows that sitting on the beach for an hour will unwind you. Mm-hmm. There's just something about the breeze, the sound, the water rushing on the beach. But you don't have to drive. The closest beach point that we have here in Luzerne County is probably 3.5 hours. That's the closest.
Right.
And so if you don't have to drive to the beach to have that same sort of effect on your mind and your heart and your soul.
Right.
You go out to one of these state parks and
come to our beach.
Go to Lake Jean, right? Absolutely. Last question for you, and we appreciate you coming in. For those that are looking to head out on the trails this fall and catch some of that spectacular foliage, which might be here before the middle of October, as we just said, what kind of advice do you offer for people, just for their planning purposes, for their safety purposes, for making sure that they have the best time possible? Yeah,
so the first thing, and we already mentioned, was about unplugging. So if you do not have AT&T, you will not have cell service for most of the area of the park. So just be mindful of that if your family is going to be worried about you whether you made it or not, tell them that you probably can't contact them when you get there.
Let them know where you're at.
Yes, so let them just know that you'll be unplugged for a while. And then another thing too that people forget is you can still get dehydrated even though it doesn't feel hot, but you're doing some pretty extreme hiking. So definitely bring lots of water. Still wear layers. We're about 10 degrees colder than other parts of the state. So plan on it being cold enough where you're probably going to need some layers. That way you always can shed some layers as you're hiking, but you don't. It's very uncomfortable if you can't get warm.
And also elevation too.
Yes.
It's pretty high.
Yeah, so you'll get warm pretty quick when you're hiking the trail.
Every time I have to run out to your office for something, my old Nissan hates me.
Yeah, coming up that mountain. And that's another thing too. Yes, if you have an old car, don't start at the top of the mountain because you're going to have a hard time coming up that grade. Mm-hmm. It's 18% grade coming up to the top there. And also the big thing is we talked about the Falls Trail in the wintertime. It does close. So just before you make the long drive to come up there, make sure you check to make sure that the Falls Trail is actually open. Because once ice starts forming on that trail, we close it.
Go to your website, call the office.
Yep.
Either or.
Yep, website definitely has it. We post it on our Facebook page, and then we usually have an automated recording on our phone number too.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it. Like we've kind of had it on our radar since we launched the podcast back in around Christmas time, that we wanted to have someone like yourself come in and just talk about Ricketts Glen and just the importance of spending some time outside and the great opportunities we have. And thank you for all those additional work you do with all those amazing programs. That makes it even more special. So we appreciate you and your office and what you all do very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and please come. The best way to support us is to attend my programs.
Go to the website. Yep. Check out the programs. Go check it out.
Yeah, events.dcnr.pa.gov is where I post everything. So
say that one more time.
Events.dcnr.pa.gov, and then search Ricketts Glen, and all of my programs will come up when I got them posted.
Perfect. Thanks, Rhiannon. We appreciate you coming in.
Yep, you're welcome.